Hi, I'm the Mitten, and you're listening to the Mitten on Knittin. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to episode 10 of the Mitten on Knittin. There are 120 days till Rhinebeck, so let's see what I've been up to. In loose threads this week, we still have the Festival Frocks contest is going on until September 25th on the Ravelry thread. And the rules for entry are really simple. Just participate in the thread and post a picture of your festival frock. That's an item you will wear at the festival, not necessarily your knit sweater, not necessarily created by you, not necessarily clothing, but keep it clean because we're family friendly. And speaking of Rhinebeck, because that's what this is all about, I'm getting really excited I'll be getting a new spinning wheel at Rhinebeck, new to me. It's an antique parlor spinning wheel, and it has beautiful pearl details on all of the pointy-uppy parts, which I'm sure have very technical names, which I'll learn as soon as I meet the wheel. The wheel's name is Milady Cath. It's already got a name, so I won't have to go through that, deciding what the wheel's names are. But I do understand that all wheels are named Cath, so that just kind of makes it much, much easier. But I'm very excited. It's coming down from a lovely lady in Canada is bringing it on down for me, and basically, I think I kind of guilted her into it because when she first got the wheel, I kind of told her I was going to hold my breath until I got the wheel. And she was like, no, it's my new wheel. I'll never part with it. And I was like, well, I'll hold my breath anyway, and we'll just see what happens. Well, sure enough, she said that she was looking to get it out of her wheel herd and bring a different one in, and I just happened to be, sitting right there waiting. So she was kind enough to let me get the wheel. So I'm very, very much looking forward to getting a new old wheel at Rhinebeck. It's so exciting. It'll be my second wheel. It'll go with my wonky Landrum. My wonky Louette, I can't even say the name right? And it's just going to be really, really pretty, and I'm clearing out a space for it. I think it needs its own pedestal, perhaps a couple of spotlights. So, yay, new wheel at Rhinebeck. That's going to be very cool. What's fitting the mitten this week? Socks, and more socks. Of course, the Jared Flood Gainsey scarf has been used as a pillow and a scarf. And instead of the Celeste this week, I've been wearing the line break shawl around the office. It's was done in Anora silk, so it goes from a teal blue through creams down to some really nice light browns and tans, and I like it a lot. It's very comfortable. It was a quick knit, and I just used one skein, pretty sure just one skein of the Nora to knit that up, and it's really a nice comfortable scarf. It's light enough to wear in spring. Keeps me warm if I want to wear it cinched up around my neck or just as a nice shawl around the shoulders. Also, because at the end of the week after the storm front went through, it was a bit chilly. I did get to wear again my Rhinebeck 2015 sweater, which is always lovely to wear, and kept me nice and warm. I didn't have to put my liner back in my coat, even though it was in the 40s. Okay, it was 48, but still, that's 40s. So that was really nice to be able to wear that still. I know that it's going to be hot this summer. We've had a little bit of high temperatures here in May and in the beginning of June, so I know it'll be back. But I do enjoy the cool mornings, and I enjoy sitting there and seeing that I have my knit socks and my knit scarf and my knit sweater and being all nice and toasty warm. So that's what's fitting the mitten. What have I been knitting? Well, this week I have been knitting my Rhinebeck 2016 sweater cahoots. I'm still questioning whether or not it's going to be the proper size, because I just have this really big fear that it's going to be wrong. But I am going to go ahead and knit all the way up to the shoulder before I make a final determination on whether or not I need to rip it all back and redo it. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm up to precisely where I will split it for the front and back. It's a bottom up cardigan, and I got to the point during the NPR show on Sunday where I would split it, and I decided that I would wait until I got home and could really just sit down and focus so I wouldn't make any silly mistakes, like starting to do the back on the front and the front on the back somehow, even though it's a cardigan. And so basically what I have right now is a rectangle of fabric. I could just see me somehow joining it together or something and doing the back and the front and the front and the back, with the luck I've been having on this sweater so far. So I decided that I would simply wait, and after I'm done doing some stuff for the garden tour, which is coming up in just a few weeks, not in a few weeks, but after I'm done doing the stuff that I need to do now, I will go ahead and do the split for the front and the back, and then I'll just have to knit up to the shoulder, and then I can try it on, and hopefully it will be proper sized and I can continue. So that's what I've been knitting. And what have I been spinning? Well, on my wheel I had the Icelandic, and I let it sit there on the bobbin for quite a few days and skeined it off, put it on the Knitty Knotty. So there it sits, awaiting its spa bath. And I was hoping, because I ordered the citric acid online, and this does have pink dye, so I was hoping to get the citric acid so I could give it a citric acid wash when I spot it, but it hasn't arrived yet. I think it actually might be at the mailbox now, so I might hop over to the post office and get that. But the other thing that I did was I had the remainder of the gradient spin that I was going to do attempt number 2 for hand-spun sock yarn. So I did the gradient spin from the cranberry down to the light dusky, really it's a cream with like a touch, a breath of cranberry in it, color. And I added in some merino that I had spun up earlier after that, really the lightest color of the gradient fiber, which was all merino. So I just added in the merino that I had also spun up when I plied it. And so that's been spun 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the merino, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's been plied, and it's sitting on the wheel waiting to get spa treatment. But again, I want to get the citric acid for that too. So that's what I've been spinning. What's finished? Again, nothing's been finished. Between doing the stuff for the garden tour and just spinning and knitting. That's really been taking up all of my time. The projects that I'm working on, the socks of many heels, and the monster socks, and the sweater are what's on the needles. So none of them are nearly finished. Although Mr. Mitten did ask if I was ever going to finish his socks. I did not have the heart to explain what soul-sucking, huge monstrosities his socks were to him. So I simply said yes, at some point he would get his hand-knit socks, and no, I had not ripped them out and abandoned them, which made him happy. So, but nothing's in my finished basket. But, next week if I get the yarn soaked and spot, then maybe I could put that in the finished bucket and that could count. Of course, gardening and weeding continues on, and we're still not tour ready. There's a lot of primping and prepping that goes on the garden beds, but we will be ready for the tour, which is coming closer every single day. Not that I'm obsessed about it or anything, but I don't obsess about anything. So why would I obsess about a garden tour more than I would obsess about, a fiber festival 120 days away? All right, so finished, nothing. Okay. And now a word not from a sponsor. The Hudson Valley Sheep and Wool Company raises Shetland and Icelandic sheep, and right on the farm they have their own mill where all of the fleece are processed. Stop on by, say hey to Mary, Jamie, or Mickey, and don't forget to say hi to the dogs as well. Last Sunday of the month is the sit and spin, so stop on by for some tea, bring your spinning wheel, and have a great time. Hudson Valley Sheep and Wool Company. We'll see them at Rhinebeck. In Stash Up Down, although I did do a bit of surfing, looking around to see what was on sale and who had what and everything, there was no stash upping. Stash downing, well, I guess the gradient fiber is finally down because it is now no longer fiber, it is yarn. So that is 200 grams of fiber. Ooh, I need to update my stash page then. So that's 200 grams of fiber that comes off my stash page and goes into handspun, along with the Icelandic, which, believe it or not, I never actually had it on my stash page in Ravelry. And I don't know why, because it was the second bag of fiber that I bought. No, it was the first. Yeah, because I bought the Icelandic at Hudson Valley Wool Company. Mickey made me this lovely pink lemonade color, and I didn't get the Shetland until I was at Rhinebeck, which was later. No, actually the opposite. I got the tricolor Shetland at Rhinebeck right after I bought my first drop spindle. So the pink lemonade Icelandic is the second fiber that I bought. But now it's done. So I'm finished with my 2012 fiber. And it's only a mere 2016. So 4 years, 4 ounces. I think that sounds pretty fair. So that's what stash is up and is none, and down is some. And that's pretty good. Where I want to be this week, just home and work and home. That's it. I don't want to be at a cruise. I don't want to go to a fiber festival. just home and working home, and I'd be pretty happy with that, and without having to run around for 100 errands, which, of course, I had to do. Even today, I had the day off because, doctor's appointments, which, everybody has to do. But every time I take a day off for something as simple as that, of course, there have to be 100 errands tacked on to the end of it. So, I just want to be home. And on top of that, I want to be home with, like, all the laundry done and all the dishes done and the dusting done and the dogs having been given baths and pedicures, and I want to be in that home, the one that's like everything is perfect and in its place, and there isn't a pile of newspapers sitting on the dining room table, or laundry sitting in the baskets, or paperwork that needs to be filed sitting on the desktop. That's the place I want to be. That would be so cool. And just, I walk in, there's my chair, and a really good old sweet movie on the TV, and my basket of knitting sitting next to it with a nice cup of tea. That would be lovely. So, yeah, if I can think about going on an Alaskan spinning cruise, I can absolutely think of coming home to the perfectly everything done house, and just sitting down and having nothing to do but relax and enjoy a movie, a cup of tea, and knitting in my lap. That would be awesome. Okay. In Grabby Paws this week, I was looking at book sharkas, the little book-sized cotton spinning devices for that you fold up and can put on your bookshelf, and they look ever so cute and clever. And someone was selling a attaché cased sized sharka, and of course that made me just take a look around to see if there were any book sharkas out there for less than a couple $100, which of course there weren't, but that's what Grabby Paws is about. Stuff I want to buy, but I'm not gonna. And you keep looking, and eventually, you find what you're looking for. I mean, Mr. Mitten and I didn't buy our house, the first house that we saw. We actually spent a couple of years looking for a house till we found one that we fell in love with, and that came within our budget and everything. So I don't mind window shopping for quite the few years before I get out my wallet. I'm quite okay with that, except for the Christmas sock yarn. I really want to get that this year. That would be nice, but I still haven't found that either, and I'm still looking for the perfect red and the perfect green. And I will find it. I don't know where it is, but I know it's got to be out there somewhere. So I found one that was close again, but alas, it was not meant to be. So I'll still keep looking, and that's what's up with Grabby Paws. For dough this week, I've been working on my Rhinebeck 2016 Kahoot sweater. And I remember last week I was just saying how nicely it was going along, and how I was just, I just fixed a purl here and fixed a knit stitch there, and, well, sometimes when you knit on the train and it's really early in the morning and there's not really great light, and you're working on dark yarn, it can be kind of difficult to tell the difference between a purl stitch and a knit stitch, and one might really mess up, say 15 rows or so of a knit purl pattern on a dark cranberry yarn, which is exactly what happened. And I messed it up royally. So I decided, since, I am the queen of ladder back, that I would just simply take out the 15 rows of stitches and quickly knit them back up, because how hard could it be, right? Well, the thing is, when you ladder back 15 rows, the size needles that you're knitting on are not necessarily the size needles that you'll be able to shove into the 15th row of stitches, because as you're moving the garment about and you're knitting it, that tension is easing out across the row, so there's a little bit less yarn down there than you originally knit with. For some reason this happens to me. I don't know if maybe it happens to you too. So anywho, I dropped down 15 rows. I tried to stick my size 6 needles in there and knit the stitches across, and as I got to the end of the row, I ran out of yarn because the size 6s were too big. So what's a girl to do? I was on the train, and the only other thing I had with me were socks. So I decided that I would use my sock needles to do the ladder back up, and then when I got to the top row, I would just, knit back onto my sweater needles. Of course, I didn't have any stitch holders to hold my socks, and since I'm doing 2 at a time toe-up magic loop, the stitches really need to be laid onto the needles specifically. So you do the front, right, front, left, back, right. So you're knitting around in a circle. And I knew if I took that off onto a stitch holder anyway, it'd be really difficult to get back on. So I decided to go ahead and use my sock needles to knit up, but still have the socks on them. And of course I did this early in the morning. So at one point it was just my sock needles, plus my sweater needles, plus the sweater, plus the socks, all involved in this one big massive yarn ball of dough. I mean, and then of course I got the ladder wrong when I was laddering it back up, and so I had to ladder back down again. Instead of, I think it was the 12th ladder, instead of pulling that thread, I did like the 10th. So that had to be fixed, and then I got it all the way back up to the top. It only took me all the train ride down and all the train ride back, and I got it back to the top, and I realized I made a mistake 7 rows down. But this time, instead of ripping out the entire row, I just did the one stitch and used a crochet hook, because I was home. I was able to get my crochet hook out and just hook up that one stitch, so it came out the proper knit and purl. And why this is so important to get the knitting and purling correct on the pattern is because it's a little chevron, and the bottom of the chevron marks where you do the cable twist. So I've been using it as like my cable counter. So if I don't do the chevron properly, then my cables don't come out properly. Fortunately for me, I did do the cables properly, and so I didn't have to go back and redo 8 cables. but I didn't do the knit and purl properly at all. But now it's all fixed and nice and neat and straight, and so that's a good thing. So not quite as bad as the increase-decrease incident, but right up there, yeah. So I was feeling really good about having fixed that, so I went on to spin my sock gradient. Now, I had 200 grams of the gradient yarn fiber. So the first time I tried to do the sock gradient, I weighed out 100 grams, 5 little balls, 20 grams for each little ball. Excuse me. And then I took each little ball and I divided it into 4 parts, because 2 ply. So 4 little balls of 5, 4 little balls of 4, 4 little balls of 3, 4 little balls of 2, 4 little balls of 1, and then I did my spinning. And I spun one skein, and then I spun the other skein and plied them, and they came out too thick, which also means they didn't come out long enough, which is why they're going to be mittens and a cowl. So this time, I wanted to make sure that I did it really nice and thin and be ever so careful. So I referred to my pictures, because I took pictures the first time I did it. Saw my 20 little balls of all the different colors there. So I carefully divided my yarn in half and started spinning. One for each in half, one for each sock, and started spinning. But what I didn't do is I didn't divide it in half again. So instead of 20 little balls of gradient fiber, I had divided it into 10 balls of gradient little fiber, and I had already spun up the first 5 little balls of gradient fiber before I had realized the error of my way, and that there was absolutely no way that I would get 2 nice little skeins of gradient sock yarn. What I ended up instead with was one huge skein of gradient stocking yarn, because it's only enough to do 1 gradient sock, not 2. So yeah, totally hosed over that entire concept and project. So this, of course, was a big deal to me. So I sat down with Mr. Mitten, and I was telling him about my tragic inability to count to 20, that I was only able to count to 10 when I made these little balls and spun up the fiber. And so the first question he wanted to know was this why he didn't have socks? Because I was incapable of spinning the yarn. I assured him that I had gotten him a nice alpaca nylon blend for his socks, so they weren't waiting on my inability to spin up yarn. And then the second question he asked me was he wanted to know if the reason he had so many mittens and cowls was because every time I set out to spin something, I only ended up with enough yardage for either a pair of mittens or a cowl. And I, again, assured him, no, that wasn't the case at all. But he did come up with a great suggestion. He said, every time I sit down to spin, I should aim to spin for a pair of socks. And eventually I would get a pair of socks, but in the interim, I may end up with a sweater's quantity worth, or a scarf's worth, or a pair of mittens, or a hat or something. And he thinks that's a great solution to my inability to properly divide out yarn and spin it to the right width is to just always aim for sock yarn, and then when I don't get that really long, fine, and thin spin, I'll have something shorter than the 400 yards that I'm going for, but it'll surely be worth something. I don't know if that's gonna work for me or not, but I appreciate the amount of thought he put into it. So I have the gradient fibers all spun up, and I think I'll probably just turn it into a hat. So I can use the other two skeins for mittens and a neck warmer cowl, and then this will be the hat that goes with it, and it'll be a matchy set. And so all I need to do is find some cranberry fiber, and that'll be my socks. Of course, I don't have any cranberry fiber in my stash at this point, but you never know. Shopping could be in my future. Last week I was saying how I thought everything was going along great. Well, obviously not, because I did majorly mess up on the sweater and the spinning as well. So this week I'm just gonna assume something's gonna mess up, and maybe that'll make it go great. I don't know, but the fiber gods were against me on this spin and on the knit, or perhaps it was just simply my inattention to detail. Either way, something good will come out of the end of it, I hope. If nothing else, I'm getting really good at laddering back up on the sweater, and I'll have a decent hat to wear at Rhinebeck. So that's it for dough. In questions this week, we have a question from Kath. My dear Miss Mitten, I've been sitting here weaving in the ends of my hap shawl that I plan on wearing to Rhinebeck this year. It has taken me a bazillion years to wash the fleece, comb the fleece, spin the fleece into a lively 2-ply fingering weight, knit the yarn into the shawl, and last but not least, knit the never-ending lace edging onto the shawl. There must be 100 million bazillion ends to weave in, and I'm going mad trying to weave them all in. In your considered opinion, which I value due to the expert that you are, thanks, Kath, would it be okay to just call them fringe and let them dangle? Your ever faithful but oh so tired follower, Kath. Well, Kath, no. No, the ends that you speak of, because I looked at your picture on the Mitten on Knittin Facebook page, the ends are going up the corners seams on your hap, and they're not on the edge. In order for them to be fringe, they would have to be all around the edge, obscuring your beautiful, never-ending lace edging. So since they're going up the corners instead of out on the edge of the shawl, unfortunately they must be woven in, all of them. Every single million bazillion one of them has to be carefully and thoughtfully woven into the shawl. And I'm sorry to be the one to say it, but when you are done doing it, and you've spent so many months working on this hap, you're going to love it. You are going to absolutely be so proud of every single bit of work that you put into it, because it's been hard work, from fleece to shawl. You did the whole project. Me, for my hap shawl, I went out, I bought some yarn. It's pretty. Yeah, I made it into a tablecloth instead of a shawl, but, we'll get back to that after I finish my sweater. But your shawl is so gorgeous, and all of the spinning that you did, and it's got that, silvers and creams. I mean, it's just so pretty, and don't you want to honor that by weaving in all of your ends as you go, just to finish it off, and then you block it out, and it just comes to life, and you'll see every single detail of the lace and the edging without being obscured by any fringy bits here and there. So yeah, in my humble opinion, yeah, you have to weave in the ends, and once you do, you'll be so thrilled and happy you might even start another hap, right? Okay, I gotta go before you hit me. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for your question. I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry that you have a million bazillion ends to weave in, but it'll look great once you do. Thanks for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.